Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Rise to the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Get started. I hear a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Second, Val. Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Approval of minutes of 2/10/25 and the special meeting of 2/10/25. I hear a motion for the approval of those 2 minutes.
I have a question. Regards to the minutes from the special meeting, I just wanted to get clarification before it gets approved, if that's okay. Is that all right?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, I thought when we left, on that date, that, the motion also said that they could be walk on leash when outside of the GPS fence, and on the minutes, it says, that they shall be leashed when off their own property.
So we were just off the property. I
Okay.
think I made the motion.
Okay.
That was for off the property.
Okay.
Is that, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you need a chair?
I don't, I got the wiggles, I was just gonna stand.
Oh, okay, so there's one here if you want to join her.
Thanks, do that.
There's no worries.
do I hear a motion to approve the 2 sets of minutes of February 10th, 2025 at 5:30
I'll make a motion.
and
Without that
6:30?
sentiment.
Still second.
Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Under the road report,
Today, if anybody noticed, V-Trans was down at the South Street Bridge. They were doing some boring samples. That's the extent of my knowledge, but I figured the question might come up, so I did talk to the Castleton office, and that's what I got from them about that. From what I understand, it's a routine thing with them, but they're not extensively knowledgeable about it as well. The boom mower is settled. The Progressive offered a settlement, and it is finally a thing of the past. We still have possession of the boom mower until they come out and take it. But that's where that is. Truck 3, the 2012 Dodge. We made it through the last storm with it, and then we couldn't get it to start again. Had the Tip'em was originally the first thought. We just happened to have a spare one on the back shelf, which is awesome because it's a $2,500 part. Sent that, they put it in, found out it wasn't the Tip'em, it's a PCM, so like a $5,000 part. And we were able to get around it. So the truck that was already on borrowed time is now on more borrowed time. It's holding up for the time being. We could probably definitely get through winter with it, and hopefully the remainder of the year we need to actually replace that truck.
is that the one we're looking at with the boom mower? We getting a settlement on the boom mower and buying a, or possibly, no, what size is truck number 3?
Truck number 3 is a Ram 5500, 2012 Ram 5500.
There's the one.
Correct.
Yeah. 69.
Yeah. The sand pile, I know there's some public questions about that. Sand piles for taxpayers. Paul and I actually discussed this, and I'm not sure if it's just for the town or for the village and the town.
It's technically for the town taxpayer, but you do see people in the village accessing it as well.
Well, that's part of the town, right?
Sorry,
The village is part of the town.
the people that live in the village don't pay any
Right.
highway tax.
You're right, sorry.
I mean, there's one way, to get around it in your next budgeting, if you proportion a section of a salt budget to the general government budget, then you would have village
Yeah.
residents contributing towards purchase of that sand.
Mhm.
So something that if the board wanted to consider next budget season.
I think it should be considered in the budget season, seeing as how we all live in the town and the village. And segregating it just to the town seems a little funny to me when there's 3 inches of ice and everybody's watching driveways.
It's been very busy, sometimes like 6 cars there.
It's been a bad time since it
Yeah.
rained and flash froze. It's been a bad time.
For about a week and a half, every day that we've been in, even on the off days that we have to come in and resand or plow or something of that nature. We put multiple buckets out a day. I think this is the most sand we've put out on the public sand pile in quite some time. But anyways, that sand pile is located between the main entrance for the highway department and for the side or staff entrance for the senior center on Furnace Street, for anybody that's curious to know about that, because some people in the past have tried to go in the sand shed, and we have some unfriendly chunks in the sand shed that are kind of a liability for public people just going in there and taking sand out of the shed. Other than that, that's what I've got.
We should look at that on our next budget cycle. And we're almost over with the winter.
I did over the weekend, had somebody, I didn't ask a name or any other information while we were actually out sanding. Sunday morning, somebody was over in our wood pile that's firewood for heating the town garage. And I went over and informed that person that that's not public wood. Yeah, and we do have no trespassing signs at both entrances to the garage. But there was no dispute there or anything of that nature, so I just figured I'd put it out there publicly that it's, you know, it's a liability if somebody's out there climbing on wood pile and there's ice and whatnot, and, you know.
Wood pile is our town heat,
Correct.
and that is just for the town garage.
Yeah. I've never seen that be an issue before, but I just figured I'd mention it. Salt, road salt. We cannot get any more clear lane this year, and I honestly don't even know. I've had this discussion with Barrett's and with Cargill, who's actually the supplier. And then Barrett Trucking is the shipper. I'm not sure if it's a logistical issue or we're truly headed toward a salt shortage. Maybe it's temporary, maybe it's long term. I don't know the answer, but I'll stay on it, and anything more I get, I'll report back to the board on that. We have salt for right now, but we're trying to go very sparingly. And if anybody noticed, we did put some sand on the roads the last couple storms, just because I didn't want to burn up the last of our salt. We've never had a logistical issue getting salt in the past while I've been with the town, but this year it's in the last month or so, it's become quite a challenge. So,
There was one year, several years ago, we did have an issue with it.
oh, when the railroad is possibly gonna go on strike.
And that's when the state used to let municipalities access their salt pile. But that year they stopped letting the municipalities do that.
New York's having trouble getting salt too, they're like out of salt,
Yeah.
getting it in.
So we're good for the time being, but if you see sand on the roads, if we get any more winter weather events, you know, it's just, we're trying to utilize salt when we absolutely have to, so. And then a future project. And with Agency and Natural Resources, hoping to do that next month. But the Route 140 culvert at the intersection of Route 140 and Town Farm Road, I'm hoping to get that underway in approximately the second or third week of May. And that will shut down Route 140 for 5 to 7 days, both lanes. It's a huge culvert. It's
That's when the
deep,
epic is.
it's long, and it's a large diameter. There's not an option to do one lane at a time on that. I've already talked to fire, EMS and V-Trans to start giving heads up so they can start pre-planning for what they need to do.
We should give heads up to the trails, because they have a couple major tournaments in May, like, I think the Epic's in May. So,
Sarah
you know,
is actually already on that. I talked to Sarah last week about that and they've been looped into the email too.
the way around there.
Yeah, I don't have a solid start date yet, but when we have the final pre-construction meeting with the contractor, with agency and natural resources, we're gonna come up with a tentative start date, a closure window, and, we're gonna have a couple extra days in there for rain or, whatever possible issues may arise. And hopefully it'll be 3 days, but we're gonna say 5 to 7 days to be on the safe side so that everybody can properly plan. And, once we do come up with a date, I'd like to start getting it out there publicly about a month in advance. So everybody that lives on this side that travels that way or vice versa can start their own personal planning as well. So
So what's the window in May again? Second, or third week?
my goal is the 2nd to 3rd week of May to get it done and over with. But that's, if the groundwater is relatively dry at the time, or, it doesn't have to be completely dry, but we can't still be having like April showers while the culvert is tore up, so.
On 140, the bridge was out. That was 33 miles around, wasn't it? It was
Well,
a 33-mile detour for them to come out and around.
Yeah, it's definitely a serious inconvenience.
All better to have a plan than have it collapse and you're really damn.
Right.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah,
Just be,
yeah. And the reason we're doing it is because that culvert is in bad shape and, we've already had it undermined a couple times and we've went back and filled it, but, we got a structures grant to do it and everything's pretty well set in place, minus coming up with a final start date, and that's that for that.
okay, so make sure it's publicized.
It certainly will be, yeah. Yeah, there'll be signs out there and we'll get it out in every way that we can, basically, so.
Okay.
That's all I got unless anybody has any questions.
Somebody have any questions for Joel?
The guys for working around the clock, and this for the roads.
Thank you, Joel.
You're welcome.
Community development?
Hi, everybody. I have a brief report tonight. Most of what I've been working on, we've talked about in previous meetings, but just sort of ongoing work to develop the MERP projects. I've been working with a few folks who are potential partners to those projects, and still identifying match funds or other resources that might help us there. So that work is ongoing. The only new thing that I have to share with the board tonight is that we've been in touch with EcoPixel and are planning to kick off the project for the Poultney Recreation website update in the second week of March. And Cheryl and I are joining EcoPixel to start that work. That will be the forms and registrations and the payment options so that people can sign up for Poultney Rec summer programs on the website this year. And then the only other thing, I have been working to support the community trust event that is being held in partnership with PDRC. Just as a reminder, that's taking place on March 6th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Poultney Public Library. We have the Preservation Trust is coming, and Cedar is coming to help support that conversation locally. And I found out today that we will have a case study. We'll have some folks from the Elmore Community Trust joining us to describe how they have organized their trust and what the purpose and mission of their trust is. So that should be a pretty good event. And aside,
Times that start, Sarah?
it starts at 5:30 on March 6th at the library. That's it for my update for tonight.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Sarah. Anybody
Welcome.
have any questions for Sarah? Thank you.
Sure thing.
Town managers report.
So I was asked, some of the folks at the senior center wanted to come to the board and discuss a river deck proposal project that they're looking into. I think, Michelle, is that,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'm on the board as the Young at Heart, and when I was the director a few years back, we went through the whole community action plan for the outdoor activities. So at this point, I brought the rendering, that original rendering, if anybody wants to see it too, because at this point, what we would like to try to do is build the river viewing deck parallel to the river and parallel to the part of the walking trail. So right where I mean. This is a point of reference. A lot of you know this section, but this would be the building. And as you come out, this is the walking trail. The pavilion is already in existence, which is what we would potentially call phase one of the project. But this is now the river viewing deck idea, and it's approximately 5 feet wide and 48 feet long along there where there are no major trees at this time. So I took it on the knowledge that the AARP grant was out now and the deadline is March 5th. So it's just a $20,000, I shouldn't say just, because that's a good amount of money, but this project in and of itself will not, will probably cost more than 20,000, but Bob Mitnick is the architect of this rendering, and he suggested to me to write this particular grant in phase one of the river deck. So we talk about the stabilization of the deck, because obviously, and that size can be changed, but the stabilization of the bank and the deck itself and the weight bearing of the materials for the deck and the people that would be on the deck all have to be in consideration. So I did some discussions with, well, of course, the Young at Heart board, who has said, yes, proceed. And so I want to come to select board to either keep going with this idea or not. But my research has been to the state of Vermont for the natural resources, and it appears that there is no need for an Act 250 permit for this type of project, as I understand it. Now, it's all up for everybody's review because I'm just new with this. But I also spoke to a civil engineering company in Rutland who said they would be happy, of course, to come down and give us a proposal when the snow is melted and they can actually see it, and an aerial shot of the area that we're talking about. But he did suggest for me to speak to two people in the state, which you all maybe know them. I didn't know them, but Josh Saravel, who is the stream alterations person, and then Kyle Madesh, who is the floodplain. And so some of the emails that I was talking with them, they went ahead and forwarded it to the town manager so that, you know, this can just like start to open. In the fall, I had discussed it with Hillary Sullivan, and she was very much, you know, interested in doing this as well, because it is part of the towns to trail idea as well. I spoke to Hillary just today, finally, and we're both really busy. And she has suggested she's going to get in touch with Evan Fitzgerald, who many of you probably know, because they're involved in the river and the different spots in the floodplain, et cetera. So some of the research is being done. And the grant for the $20,000 is due March 5th. And by dumb chance we get it. I don't know, we do need letters of support as well. But there's a lot of competition for the AARP, and the AARP grant comes out every year. Some people might know. But at least this way, we're getting to get started with this project, because it's going to be a bigger project than I can do alone. I need everybody, and there are a lot of people very much interested in it. And so I thought, let's get started. Let's, as my friends have said, put it on the pipeline and we'll get going and see what happens with the grant. If we get only a portion of the stabilization with the design, whatever maybe Joe comes up with. There is a timeline for the grant application to be in, but there's also a timeline to have that project finished by the December. So there it is. And
Is that a matching grant, do you know? Is it a,
I do know that it is not.
it is not a matching grant?
Right, so it's, yeah, it's AARP this grant has as a flag grant, I think they call it, but there's like 6 or 7 points that they request, and one of them is to do an outdoor project for people that can utilize it that are over 50. So I think we have a good chance in that respect. There's other, other types of parts to it.
They have to pay like an Evan Fitzgerald or,
Well, I'm sure that,
I was gonna say on top of it.
sure, that's part of all the research that we're trying to get done and see what happens. The money towards the grant would go for all of that.
Would you introduce your grant writer?
Yes, I certainly would. Nancy Blessed is my grant writer, although we are a team. And so what she's been involved in all the everything so far. But she came up with a support letter that we're going to, if you all see fit. If I could just read it maybe, and then see what you think. The young, dear Poultney community leaders, the Young at Heart is proposing to build a river viewing deck on its grounds along the bank of the Poultney River. This project complements the existing outdoor amenities at the center, which include a pavilion and a walking track. It supports the goal of increased youth, senior, and broader community engagement of the Poultney Community Action Plan of 2020-21. The proposed deck would provide a place for mindfulness, meditation, nature appreciation, and stewardship, and a plain old relaxing and enjoying life outdoors by all ages. The section of the riverbank at Young at Heart is one of the only access points to the river for the public. Adding a deck parallel to the walking track would contribute to more outdoor activities, especially for those 50 and older. The path to health and wellness programs at the Young at Heart would definitely be enhanced by a river viewing deck. Please sign below your name and your designation and organization to signify your support of this project for grant application purposes.
Michelle, can I just ask, how many people do you think use the track? I mean, obviously not now, but use the track when the track's available in the spring and summer?
Quite a few. Yeah, I'm not
Daily.
there every day.
I am. I see quite a few of them across the street.
I know people that from Wells, I know from people from Wells come down weekly. I use it 2 or 3 times in the summer and there's always somebody on it.
Yes, I see it quite a bit. There's throughout the week, I'd say there's probably off and on 30, 35 people, different people use it throughout the week, every week.
Yeah, I see people.
And the glory of that track too is the tourists like it, the people that are coming here for different reasons. I bumped into them that they didn't know about it, they saw it, they use it real quick, they drive off, A lot of people don't have time. I know the Friday lunch people like to go out there.
Yep.
And yeah, I think the more the word gets out, the more they're using it. And I think the opportunity that the director is using the outside space and the value to the pavilion with the nice flooring there, it's just going to grow with the outdoor activities and exercises and fun and games and music. And
Have you looked to see if there's other funding available as well? Because 20,000 can burn up pretty quick with just engineering fees and any kind of stabilization.
yeah, you're right, Alan. I didn't thank you for that because I'm searching. I'm not really a grant writer. I'm just trying to pull this all together for fun.
So I commend you for the work you've done to this point. You've actually contacted a lot of the right people. And this board and some of the public present may know that we're just in the process. I think the first meeting is tomorrow to look at the highway garage site, which is on the same parcel as the Young Heart. So I think we should cautiously inquire of some of our contacts, our engineers that are assisting with that, our architects that are assisting with the highway garage, that what you're proposing won't have any impact on what we can do to potentially redevelop the highway facilities. I'm thinking, I want to make sure there's not like a minimum or maximum land disturbance for any particular lot that's on the Poultney River, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, I'm not trying to take the wind out of your sails whatsoever. And like I said, I think you're doing a great job. But I just want to make sure that we're thinking about everything that's on that lot and that one is not going to impact
Right.
the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that point, Paul, and I did have a discussion with Sarah about some of that. I don't have it in depth, but I was led to believe that the project that could be maybe the garage moving, the public access to the river at that point, maybe a boardwalk, maybe a trail of some kind. This deck probably would not interfere with it. It's like a pocket project. It's not a combination of that one. Is my understanding, but certainly we can. I'll take whatever advice you have to wait, of course, to talk to the people that who are
Yeah.
doing that part. I don't know who actually, unless it's Evan Fitzgerald, he'll mention his name to me.
Evan has consulted with us a little bit on the current highway garage location and what we can do as far as if we're going to replace it, can we get any closer to the river? So I just want to make sure, because we're talking about the same property, that
Right.
that they're both going to not interfere with one another.
Well, we can still go forth and try and get the grant.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
How do you feel about it, Alan? Letter of intent is what you need signed tonight.
If
Well,
not,
I wrote it up only because I know you're all busy. If you want to write, if you choose to have a letter of support to your own verbiage, that's fine by me,
Mhm.
either way.
If you want, you could, if you have it like in Word form, you could email it to me, Michelle,
Okay.
and
And then we can,
then I can tweak it if need be.
how do you feel about it, Alan?
if we're keeping looking into, I think you're gonna run into a money problem, even if you get the grant. If they want it done by a certain time, then you're gonna be in a crunch zone, so you're gonna have to find more funding, but.
If you say I can have it, or we can have it, I'm not in court, I don't know.
Mark?
May I ask you a question?
Hang on, please, just like Mark.
Yeah.
You're in favor of it?
Since he's vice president of the senior center,
Pardon me?
shouldn't Mark and you recuse yourself from a vote since you're president and vice president in the senior center?
It's not so much a vote as we should probably recruit. Yes. Because it won't be a vote, Carol. It's just we're in favor of
Going forward.
going forward. But to be safe,
What do you say?
we'll recuse ourselves. How do you feel about it, Al?
I think it's great. I think it should move forward.
Me too. I think it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a big expense. And I agree with Mark. I think the big thing is don't get stuck in a grant that says it has to be done by a certain time, because we went into that with the park and it was a longer process than anybody anticipated. So that would be my only thing.
Take that under advisement.
So that's three of the board members. Mark and I will recuse ourselves. Carol, thank you. I, didn't even think of that.
Thank you, Michelle, and Angie, for doing all the work.
Okay, so
I am in moral support.
they can send that to Paul,
He can tweak it.
yeah,
I just wanted to add on to what Cheryl had said and just ask the question straight up. If we take on this grant, are we obligating ourselves in any way, shape, or form to any additional financial expenditure besides what is covered in the scope of the grant? In other words, do we have to spend more money if we pursue this?
If you would like to look at the application, I'd be happy to show it to you, but it's my understanding that whatever you request and you say you'll do by that date,
Sure.
that's what they're gonna offer the money up to.
And I'm for the record, and not that it probably matters to you one way or the other, but it looks great what you guys are doing, and I think it's awesome, whatever you can add on to it, and the fact that you're willing to do it in this way, building it as the way down is it's awesome. I just wanted to double check that the town isn't obligated to any unknown financial rider on the back end of this grant, like then you must complete, as opposed to take money. So the grant's for investigating the site, right?
It's for whatever we asked for, so I'm going to separate the entire project that I described
Right.
to have this grant just to have the design of the foundation to stabilize the bank.
So we stop there.
We stop there.
We satisfy the terms of the grant. It's only up, it then becomes up to us as to whether we want to take on additional expense of building out the thing once we get the study back. Is that?
It would be up to another grant. I wouldn't expect the town or
I'm just looking for that.
Or-
To what we're financially obligated
or
to.
philanthropists of some, yeah.
I and apologies for asking it in a worded way. I was just.
No, that's all right.
Getting future expense based on something we're kind of chasing a little after to try and catch a deadline. Yeah, and just want to put it out there so we're thinking about it.
Right.
Okay,
I think that's one of the reasons that you mentioned that this is phase one. All together.
Just being able to stop if the money runs out, not having to come up with more money to to bring the 20,000 that we're depending on to pay the bill that it's just thinking about it in terms of not future obligation, but I think I'm squared away with that and also good luck.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Michelle.
you're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Next, Paula.
So, pursuant to our special meeting on the 10th of this month, I put together the findings of fact and the order that we need to serve upon Mr. and Mrs. Bhakta. I've sent it to you, I think, last week to look at. And if it looks like what everyone agreed to at the meeting, I'd ask for someone to make a motion to allow Jeff King to sign it as the chair of the board.
If I could just make one notion here. I don't believe the dogs are licensed in town.
I've been told, I haven't had the opportunity to look, and I'm not sure if Betsy, the town clerk, was in charge of, licensing dogs in town. It was told to me that they're registered in another town that they also live in. So I don't know, not being the one in charge of licensing dogs, I don't know what, if any impact that has.
When I asked Betsy, she didn't mention anything. That's the one who registered license.
I understand they're not registered in Poultney, but
Right.
if they live somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they're registered there, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
phone call, it's someone can.
Okay, I didn't consider that possibility.
But I can look into that.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a motion for what we discussed in our last meeting.
Yeah, and just have you sign this findings of fact in order.
Make a motion. Yes, sign.
You hear a
A
second?
second.
Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Second,
Val second.
can you just have them sign that? So the clerk has asked me to present the two liquor licenses. So the first one is the first class, third class, and outside consumption renewal for the American Legion. And the second one is a new license for the Lehigh building for a first class, third class, outside consumption license. In that building where the Lehigh used to be the train station.
Do we hear a motion to accept the liquor license?
And for outside consumption, they're gonna have tables outside.
My understanding, although I don't, I wouldn't swear to it because I don't really remember the full details, but my understanding is they plan to have underneath the section of the train station that's outside that has a roof
And
to have like maybe some tables out there.
they're not roaming the streets.
No, I mean, usually the liquor department, for
Right.
instance, you know, Toads, they let them have that, a couple picnic tables in the
Yeah.
front.
As roped off.
Like, okay, sure.
Do I hear a motion?
We're making motion to approve both those licenses.
Neil second. Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
You ask them, have them sign that where the X is. Okay, there's, the board may recall, we had some discussions with, the Mary Jo, the assessor's office, to put together a request for proposals for, reappraisal, work. We had, one company, Nemrick, bid on the project. And the timeline for the reappraisal to start would be July of 2027 with a projected completion date in 2029. The total cost will be $197,400. And it's payable for a period of 24 months, beginning of July of 2027. I have the reappraisal agreement here. If someone wants to make a motion to sign it, I'll circulate it.
You get that in their budget.
We already,
Side.
Yeah,
we have that money. We have that money set aside, and it's
That's right.
approximately,
In the hand.
yeah, every year we put,
Money aside for that.
money aside for that.
You make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion, yeah, sign the appraisal agreement.
Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor?
So there's line.
Any
We
opposed?
sign it.
Motion carried.
Doesn't count for something.
Mm.
State level, it doesn't.
Not really.
Not red, yeah. Other copies. I'm fine.
Just have a note here that we've been working closely with, the way networks. As far as computer updates and IT updates. They're gonna start The plan currently is start the installation of the new computers and software on. I think they're gonna start on March 5th. As part of that, we're gonna be migrating the Nemrick software to the cloud. So that's gonna start here in the beginning of March.
Must be so excited.
Well,
Rick's a dinosaur.
a little nervous working with new stuff, but we'll see.
We need new stuff.
The next I have, as this board knows, their last regular meeting, we signed, this board authorized me to sign the purchase and sale agreement by 177 Main Street, Citizens Bank Building. A few people have asked me some of the details, so I thought we could put on the record, some of the details. Purchase price is $356,000. We plan to do our due diligence, and if this board thinks it's something the voters want us to do, depending on, well, the due diligence actually includes, we have engaged in our architectural firm to review the current state of the building and any retrofits, to design and recommend a people traffic flow pattern for the building. And as part of this, the architect will be working with a construction company to give us estimates for the retrofitting of the building. I think the largest expense we'll see is a new vault, where it would go, what it's gonna cost. And if we get done through our due diligence and if this board feels the purchase price plus a retrofit is something the voters would approve of, we would be looking for a bond vote on or around November 1st of 2025. We've provided a $15,000 deposit for the property, which came out of funds that were freed up, budgeted funds that were freed up when we had applied some ARPA money to some of our previously budgeted operational costs for employee retention and or some of our other costs. So that's basically that agreement summed up.
Maybe some people would like to know what offices are gonna be going.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it's the old Citizens Bank building. We would hope to move this office there, the clerk's office there, the community development office, which Sarah Pelkey is currently at Stonebridge. The assessor's office, we have hired a new zoning administrator who, because we don't have any hardware computers for him yet, hasn't come on board. So that office would be located in there. We'd hope that at least while it might not be office space, there's a lot of it's quite a big basement down there, so we hope to be able to store, our rec stuff there. Because currently some of the rec stuff gets stored here, some of it gets stored there, some of it gets stored your house, my house. So basically we're hoping that building is going to provide us enough space to do all that, and
Our meetings
Is there a
there.
conference room?
we hope one of the rooms will serve as a conference room, which will be a little bit more comfortable for the public, and there's a space over there that's significantly bigger than this that I hope, I mean, one of the things that I'm not an architect, so I don't know if anyone's ever been in that building, but it's kind of a weird layout, kind of a long shotgun building, so that's one of the things I stressed with the architectural firm is you got to convince us that it's not going to be like some sort of an awkward navigating that, particularly for the public.
The other question is, if it's it already has a bank vault in it, why is it not good enough for us?
It does have a bank vault there. It's not nearly big enough.
Is that like for the size?
Yeah.
It's like
And
Boston.
frankly, I think the vault we have here, it's not as big as that, by any stretch of the imagination.
So it's for size rise.
Yeah, but there, I mean, I think the architect will tell us, well, has told us that some people don't know there's another vault in this building downstairs that we house there's different tiers of how we have to house our records. So I'm hoping that the records that we keep in the vault downstairs can be accommodated at least by the current vault that's there if the vault gets gutted, because right now it's the safety deposit box, like,
It's not very big.
No, it's not.
so that's why we would need another vault.
Good question.
Anyone else have any questions?
Michelle?
Will the ATM machine still be there?
I would love for it to still be there. We haven't had any conversations with them yet. Them being the Heritage. And I did speak with the principal of the owner. The owner it's owned by JMD LLC, and I spoke with the principal of that today, and I think he's gonna start notifying his tenants that, we're under contract to buy it, but we still need to do quite a bit of due diligence.
Mary Sue?
What is the condition of the building? Because I know, when it first came up for sale a few years ago, I believe the select board was talking about it, but there were issues. So I was wondering if there's been any improvements made. Are there still issues in the basement with water?
So I think when the select board sort of talked about it before, it was sort of such a moving pace that at the time it was not something the select board was prepared to take on at the time. We didn't really have any hard numbers, and there was a bunch of numbers that people were just, as far as renovating, throwing out. And I think this time around, engaging, architects, working with construction company, we're gonna have more real numbers. So I don't think last time the select board informally were looking at it, I don't think they were ever like, oh, the roof is, the roof needs to be replaced. It was never that kind of conversation as far as I remember.
Like the vault was a big thing because it's a big issue, having a big enough and the maintenance of building a vault.
In the water in the cellar, I think we had a broken pipe.
There was several years ago when the building was big.
That's what the water in the cellar.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in the basement this winter down there, but anytime I was in the basement of recent, most of it, there's not a full basement underneath the whole building, but most of it is there as a concrete floor, concrete wall basement. Unlike some of the other buildings in town where it's actually, I don't know if that answers your question.
If this does go through, is there any possibility of historical grants? Because that building is on the historical register. If the outside architecture is kind of maintained, that you might be able to look at?
Maybe, I haven't gone down that road yet, but it's a good thing to think about. And as other people could probably imagine that the parking lot for that building is quite a bit bigger than this one.
Right, quite.
Telephone pole in the middle.
And then the other question has, well, what are you gonna do with this one? I don't think that's been decided yet.
This building is gonna get an upgrade.
This building will get some work done through the MERP grant that Sarah mentioned earlier.
Carol, I think too, that we just like a historical grant with the stone bridge. And thanks for, yeah, that's something, thank you for that. Patty,
Quick question, does the village office still remain there?
If I told Kim Fairfield, no, she'd quit tomorrow. I mean, potentially, depending on what goes on with the merger, potentially, you know, we could be looking at if it would accommodate the village office with all the other uses that we anticipate, you know, we could be looking at a lease scenario similar to what the village is doing now with the current owner. So I think all that remains to be fleshed out.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, my next note is the brick project, that Evan Fitzgerald came and proposed, came and gave his presentation to the select board. And if you may recall, I had some reservations and you asked me about those and looked into those reservations, and the short answer is it's because whatever proposal this board would like to move forward with involve the property that's owned by the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont has to be a partner in the project. We've had some discussions with the state, and we have a conference call with some of the state players and engineer, myself, Sarah, Pelkey. We've got a call scheduled, I think, for next week, so beginning of March. And tentatively, they're aware of what Fitzgerald and Associates have proposed, and while they were tentatively, some of the resolutions they're in favor with, because it's going to be essentially on their dime. They need to get a handle on what the match is with as far as the grant that Rutland Regional Planning Commission is eager to help us apply for, because it's the state land. It'll have to be the state that's the applicant, and they've got to see budgetarily where they are in their budget process. If it's a match, how much is it? Do they have enough in their budget that they can match? Is it, could it be another fiscal year so that they can build it in their budget? But I think this is really, it's an opportunity that I think the state realizes, because they've been pushing municipalities to become more flood resistant, to do the MRGP work on our hydrologically connected roads. I think this is sort of it could be a moment where it's like, okay, maybe it's time for you to put your money where your mouth is. So I just want to bring the board up to date that, I hope we can work closely with the state to be partners on this, to do something that potentially could help the community and set an example for the rest of the state. So that's just my little soapbox on that one.
We have to make a decision on which alternative this board would like to see.
I think let's hold off on that for now. And let's see where the state lands, see if this board aligns with what they're thinking. I think it's a new approach, for the state, so let's hope that, unlike some other projects that have been statewide, it doesn't get bogged down in the red tape.
I think Evan and Jordan were gonna look at a couple other things that we talked about anyways. Right? I think
Yeah.
we're gonna talk, that we had brought up, so we'll get that feedback to him.
Okay,
I just want to remind people that that informational town meeting is March.
third,
Yeah, the first Monday, March 3rd. To be followed by the vote, on March 4th. The informational meeting starts, I think it's at 6:30, right? No, 7:30.
7 o'clock. It usually
Is it 7 or
be
7:30?
o'clock.
Let me see your town report. I don't want to misspeak. Thank you. Yeah, 7 PM.
At the fire station.
Yeah. So I hope a lot of people come out to that, and I hope a lot of people vote.
Okay. Anything else, Paul?
That's all I have right now.
Anybody have any questions for Paul?
Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you. Transact any other lawful select board business? I think we've covered quite a bit. Rutland Regional Planning Commission. You have anything, Sarah?
I do. So the regional commissioners meeting took place on the 18th. The main focus of that meeting was commissioner review of the first draft of the regional plan. So we had been assigned to read the entire first draft and had a 1 month timeline given to us from the RPC. So the regional plan is in development and still on track. That was the focus of that meeting. This Thursday is the TAC meeting, which is again about the regional priority projects for transportation infrastructure in the county. That's an ongoing conversation, and this meeting will have Representative McCoy and Keyser from House Transportation to talk with them about transportation projects in the county. I think, as I said at the last meeting, Poultney has had its fair share of transportation projects with bridge redevelopment and replacements. And to the best of my knowledge, there's not really anything that is a county level project that I need to be advocating for Poultney. But if I am incorrect in that, somebody please let me know. And I'll make sure the TAC knows about it.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments, any concerned? Patty, what do you got?
I have a couple things. First one is homework, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. Was a town grant used to take down the house across the street?
No, it wasn't.
So
How did it get taken? Who paid for it? Is that
So,
what you want?
so we
Yeah.
covered,
Yep,
we covered this topic a few meetings ago, but I'm happy to recover it. To dispel, the rumor. So originally, if you watched that building for the last, I don't know, 7 years, it was getting gradually worse and worse, to the point where bricks started falling off into the road, pulling power lines down across the road. So, I looked at it through the lens of my lens as a health officer. And we sort of came to the conclusion that it had risen to a health hazard, public health hazard. So I approached, the owner, who's an elderly gentleman that lives in the yellow part of the building. And said, hey, we gotta have a conversation about getting this building taken down. So, I had some conversations with this board. And originally, he advised me that, he didn't have sufficient funds of his own to pay for it. So this board works with I approach many contractors, the big ones, the small ones, in between ones, and most of the contractors that looked at it were like, I'm not gonna touch that unless you give me a huge insurance policy. I found a contractor that was willing, that actually came in the lowest bid that we received. And originally this board, dedicated, the contract was $35,000. This board allocated $35,000 of ARPA money, to pay for removing the building. In the interim, and that $35,000 or any money that the town expended would have been secured by a first mortgage on the property, because the property is unencumbered, or was at least at the time. In the interim, the gentleman who was quite frankly overwhelmed with what he was facing, said, geez, I have enough money that I could pay for that myself. He liquidated some stocks. I did use $10,000 of the allocated ARPA funds to put the down payment on the project, which he reimbursed me that very morning. And from there on out, all the money that was expended was his own money. So I don't know if it's a rumor or a distortion of what really happened, but it's actually quite frustrating because, spend a lot of time dispelling these misinformation, and a lot of energy. And so, frankly, I don't think people realize some of the stuff that I do, some of the stuff that this board does, and they just want to shed a negative light on and make assumptions about many, many things when, my office is open when I'm here and these meetings are public. And so for something like that to even get any legs, that I don't know how many countless people have inquired with me about that, for people to let that get legs without just coming to the source it's kind of, it's disconcerting. Facebook and the internet and social media is not the way, in my opinion, to inquire what the real truth is. And unfortunately, that's how some people live their life. And it's to me, to this office, it can be counterproductive, I think. So does that answer your question?
It does. I understand the frustration. It's small town. But when you hear this much, I just wanted the facts. I do have a question though.
You did do the right thing, no one come to us.
And I hope that when he gets back, that people realize, because Paul went above and beyond. He was over there mornings and afternoons trying to find people. we were all looking like who would like to do this job, and people just didn't want to do it. And he worked with them and worked with everybody else. So it's funny how people don't really see that positive side, that how much work he did and all the good that came of it. But there was a lot of meetings and conversation that everyone's not so privy to, but that you put in the time you put in, just trying to take care of that before something really did happen. I hope people understand that now. Thank you.
Were lawyers involved for that, or was it like a gentleman's agreement?
Oh, no, we had a written agreement with the owner and the contractor. Albeit a very simple one that I personally drew up, but ran it by the town attorney. You know, and there were some other scenarios that, you know, frankly, discussions on how if the town was going to be involved that occurred, and what would be our remuneration for that. And, you know, there was, I wouldn't call it negotiations, but there were some different creative ideas that we were potentially considering to what I thought had amounted to a public health hazard with somebody that had limited funds.
Does that now set precedent in the future and other homeowners coming forward?
If it's a health hazard, we have to look
I mean,
at it.
potentially. I mean, there's things that I do and this office does on a fairly regular basis that, you know, you try to help someone, particularly given that we're in a small community. I mean, I don't think I'm doing anything unethical or inappropriate. But, you know, I mean, there's things that I do all the time that someone might say, well, you're doing it for that person. I mean, there was one, I'll just give you a very brief example. There was one woman that had fallen and busted her knee or something. And I don't know, for 6 or 7 times, it was me going and helping her elderly husband get her in and out of the car to go to the doctor's appointment. Is that wrong for me to do?
Well, I'm not pointing fingers.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying there's things I do that kind of stuff all the time that, like, someone might say, well, you didn't come pick up the garbage that was on my lawn, but you did it was on their lawn. You know what I mean? I try to approach it as a humanistic thing. But yeah, it could have set precedents. Sure.
That answer everything? Huh?
Yes, it clarified a lot.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes. All right, yes?
Hi, guys. Rachel Fowler. I really appreciate the special meeting we had and everything that you guys did. I did feel leaving like I was being shamed as the victim by the Bhaktas. They still haven't come forward and met with me at all or done anything to make good. And every single day that I leave for work, I pull out and look at their house. And it's just really devastating to me that we're in such a small community, like Paul just said. And he came forth and admitted to the other 2 victims and compensated their loss, and they seem better about it. I mean, the Messers were saying that they're getting chickens this week. Like, I still don't even feel comfortable that I can get chickens again because I haven't been spoken to about it. And so I guess I'm just looking for guidance on what to do, because they made it pretty clear that they don't feel comfortable with us going over there. And I still am feeling icky, I guess I'll say, about the situation, because I feel singled out, and I was a leading force behind getting justice for the other 2 victims. Like he said, he's made good with 2 out of the 3, and I'm still sitting on the sideline. So I just didn't know if you guys had any suggestions or what I should do from this point.
Mostly, we set that, you know, we told them that you have to keep your dogs on your land, have to keep them in. You guys are all here and heard that. So we went by our dog ordinance. Other than that, the only thing I could suggest to you, if,
Am I in your way or something?
no, you're all right. I'm just playing bebob, it's cracking my back. If, we can't take and do anything like, tell him, I've been on this board 18 years and never had anybody, you know, like, he went with the other two people and gave them compensation. You would have to go through legal to do that, like a lawyer, if you wanted to go into that. That's something that the select board doesn't
Well,
do.
I have the select board handbook printout of 20 VSA 3741, 3749. And it actually says the owner may also notify a select person within 24 hours of the damage, which I did. The select person shall investigate and appraise the damage. If he or she finds that it is more than $20, then the total should be appraised by that board member and two disinterested persons whom he or she may appoint. The board shall issue an order to the treasurer to pay for all or part of the damage. The board may also order that the dogs, which we don't want to do that, cause the damage to be killed. If the select board fails to act, the damaged party may recover in civil action. The town may also recover damages from the owner of the dog via civil action. So I guess I'm confused because I'm looking at the select board handbook.
I gotta be honest with you, I've never heard of that. At least in if that's select board handbook for the whole state of Vermont, or is that
Yeah,
a select board handbook for Poultney?
it's for the state of Vermont, but it's
That's the
also one
first-
in Poultney.
See, we've gone by our ordinance. That's what we have gone by, we have established at our ordinance. Which
So
I do believe we have a right to do, don't we? And it supersedes the state.
I guess the question is, I mean, if you want this board to determine the value of,
I want what everybody else got. Like, I don't
Yeah, we don't
understand
have
why
a
I'm
clue
being
what they
singled
got.
out.
But it does say civil action. That usually means a suit, right?
yeah,
A civil way.
but,
All right, I guess if anybody in the community knows them and feels comfortable, I mean, talking to them, I would really appreciate it. It just is really hard because I moved here because it's such a small community, and as a lot of people saw at this special meeting, not you guys did an amazing job. I was attacked and called a liar the whole time, but then the Messers aren't liars and the Roberts aren't liars. And now here I am without chickens, without eggs. My investment of 8 years is gone. And all he has to do is walk his dogs on a leash when he's off his property.
Yeah, that's pretty much what our ordinance.
I think we'd have to look into what you found on our end. Too.
I think it's a civil thing and I don't think the board needs to discuss it any further. I think you guys have done what you need to do and that's it.
That's what,
When Raj screws over you guys, you'll have a different tune.
You got chickens. Were they caged?
Yep, fully fenced in. I've had them for over 8 years.
we have our
I grew up on a
ordinance.
farm. I'm a hunter.
We have our dog ordinance and I do believe it supersedes.
I mean, I can
We
talk
can
to
look at
the
it.
attorney, and I don't know what the other folks got from the Bhaktas.
Yeah,
But if this board is obligated pursuant to what you just cited, then we'll take a look at it and see if it's something that this board has to do. But I don't.
Yeah, we just want a little bit of help.
And I don't know
Yeah.
who else to go
We don't
to.
know.
but if we don't know when that was dated, if it's still in effect,
Well, let's look at it.
Yeah.
we'll look at it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
That's-
So we wanted to bring it to you guys' attention just so that
Yeah.
we can know and like exactly what you said. We don't know when it's dated either.
That's the first, I gotta be honest, it's the first I've heard of that. I've read most everything.
Yeah, and this is all new to me, so I'm trying to learn as well and do what's correct.
Yeah.
So I just want to not look across my yard and be like, is this really my neighbor?
Have you, Devin and Rich, have you talked to the other people and just found like how that went about or no?
Sign the NDA.
They won't talk. That's why Ryan said what
Oh,
he
no,
said.
no, just.
Gotcha, okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, I tried.
We'll look and see what, you know, we'll look and see what that. that allows to us. Did you move it? Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting over there. I hit the bucket and it's.
Don't touch the
It's
button.
empty over a little more.
We'll look into that though. That's something we will have Paul look into. Okay, any other questions? Mary Sue, what do you got?
Speaking of dog control laws, we have this nice new website, but I don't see the dog control law being updated with the change that the select board made a couple meetings ago.
I haven't had a chance to do it yet and run it by the town attorney.
Okay, and Paul, you had also asked the select board if they're planning on updating the fines, because I think the template you had blanks for them, so it was up to the town's discretion.
My memory is from, and I'd have to look back at the minutes, but what one of the board members made a motion to do was to, correct me if I'm wrong, board, to incorporate the potentially vicious dog section of into our current ordinance, I think.
The vicious dog section.
So you didn't do anything else then?
My memory is that tack on the potentially vicious dog language into our current ordinance.
Yeah, nothing was done with the fines or anything, Mary Sue. They stayed status quo.
But I apologize, I haven't had a chance to do it yet.
Another question, merger committee, do you know when they'll begin meeting again? I don't think. Since I.
Yeah.
So there is some data that I'm still compiling, some questions that the consultant had that I'm still working with Nisha Crawford, my bookkeeper in the town, and Kim Thurkiel, the bookkeeper at the village, to answer. There were some clarifying things, and frankly, I kind of put it on halt for a little bit while I was finishing up the town report and town budget season. So that's back on my plate. So hopefully, once I get that information to the consultants, we can move forward from there.
Anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you then. Do I hear a motion to sign the board orders?
Yes, I would make a motion to sign the board.
Here a second? Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. We do not need to go on.
Have one more thing about farm to table dates.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to let the town know, we have our farm to table dates for the summer, July 19th, Saturday and August 23rd, just so it'll be out and about.
Get them in the minutes.
Yeah, July 19th and August 23rd.
Let's farm to table.
Dinners.
Okay? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I hear a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carried.